There is an enormous amount of guns in Destiny 2, and unfortunately a lot of these guns get neglected because they aren't the meta or the best guns in the game. However, with a substantial amount of player base in Destiny 2 being solo players, a lot of these meta guns actually come from raids and dungeons, and unfortunately a lot of solo players can't get these meta guns. So in that matter, for today's video, I'm going to be covering some great alternative guns to the meta guns. This is actually a part 2, as the first part is on my channel right now. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to see the first part of great alternative weapons to the meta guns in the game. Kicking the list off straight away with arguably the best hand cannon in the entire game, we have the Zali's Bane. Now this hand cannon comes from the King's Fall raid, which again for some players can be quite hard to complete and actually get all the red borders and craft this Zali's Bane. Now we all know the Sunshot is a great alternative to the Zali's Bane, however with the Sunshot being an exotic weapon and the Zali's Bane being legendary, there's a good chance you don't want to waste that exotic slot for a hand cannon. So my great alternative recommendation to the Zali's Bane is the Luna's Howl. Now the Luna's Howl drops from the Onslaught activity, and you can go ahead and go to Zavala in the tower and focus any weapon to have an increased chance of that weapon dropping. Now the Luna's Howl goes in the exact same special slot, and it is also solar, and it is also a hand cannon, being a great alternative to the Zali's Bane. In my opinion, the gold roll for this one would be Heal Clip in the first column, paired with Incandescent in the second column. Now, as we all know, Onslaught is extremely easy to do, and if you go ahead and focus the Luna's Howl, it should only take you a couple runs to, rack up a few Luna's Howl drops, but unfortunately, you will need a little bit of RNG luck to get this gold roll. But I can tell you now, it is far easier to grind out the Luna's Howl than it is to try and get a Zali's Bane crafted. Moving over into another solid endgame machine gun is the Commemoration. Now this machine gun drops from the Deepstone Crypt raid, and again it is arguably one of the best LMGs in the game. With a gold roll like Reconstruction and Killing Tally on a Void machine gun, this weapon is completely busted. Now Deepstone Crypt is quite an easy raid to farm, so if you are a confident solo player, I would definitely recommend getting into Deepstone Crypt when it is on rotation and trying to get a crafted Commemoration, as it is quite clearly one of the best machine guns in the game. However, if you don't want to do Deepstone Crypt, a great alternative to this gun would be the Pro Memoria. Now the Pro Memoria is extremely easy to get, and it can also be crafted. Pretty much doing anything in the Pale Heart has a pretty good chance of dropping this gun, and then you can, activate it with the Deep Sight Harmonizer if it drops a red border, or, you can use the Deep Sight Harmonizers to make it a red border. If not, each week you can go ahead and buy engrams from the Ghost in the Last City to, increase your chances of getting more of these weapons in red borders, and within a week you should definitely have this weapon crafted. Now there is plenty of great perks on this machine gun that make it just as viable as the Commemoration. In the first column you have great perks like Envious Assassin, Demolitionist, and of course Reconstruction. In the second column you have great perks as well, things like Desperate Measures, Target Lock, Frenzy, Dragonfly, and even Bait and Switch. With my crafted gun, I've gone for Reconstruction and Bait and Switch, making it a very good machine gun. Most of the time you do have your primary and special weapons out dealing damage to enemies, and then when you do pull out your heavy weapon, once you've damaged an enemy, Bait and Switch will have already been procced and you have a decent 10 seconds of 30% increased damage, and of course the Reconstruction is going to overflow and double that magazine size. Very solid machine gun here. If you haven't got it yet, it's definitely a very decent one to pick up. Moving over into the submachine gun category, now I know these weapons aren't used very often, but they are still very enjoyable and very decent to use in lower end activities like normal Nightfalls, Lost Sectors, Dares of Eternity, whatever it is, very small, easy activities to do. A decent SMG is very useful. Now the three meta submachine guns that come to mind straight away is the Callus Mini Tool being Solar, the Icolos SMG being Arc, and of course the Unforgiven being Void. Now both the Callus Mini Tool and the Icolos are pretty much unobtainable now unless Xur or the Gunsmith randomly sells them, and you waste a bunch of Deep Sight Harmonizers to actually craft them. Now the good chances are, if you're watching this video, you probably don't have these weapons crafted, and the Unforgiven comes from the Duality Dungeon, again something that solo players struggle with. Now a very easily obtained alternative to the Callus Mini Tool is the Parabellum. You've probably got a bunch of these to drop over your time from, opening legendary engrams, or even rank up engrams from each vendor. The Parabellum is extremely easy to get, it's also a well drop, it is a solar 900 rends per minute SMG that is very similar to the Callus Mini Tool. It also has some pretty good perks in the first column. You've got Heal Clip and Rewind rounds, and then in the second column you have Attrition Orbs and also Frenzy. Both of these perks work very well. I would opt for a Heal Clip and Frenzy combo. This would work almost as good as a Callus Mini Tool, but it's a pretty decent alternative for now. As for an Arc SMG, there aren't too many in the game, so my option for you is the Subjunctive if you did play a couple seasons ago, and hopefully you got this one crafted, as a Subjunctive is a very decent Arc SMG. This is pretty much identical to the Ikelos SMG, again being 900 rounds per minute. It can roll with Subsistence and Vault Shot, making it an extremely useful Arc SMG. And finally, to replace the Unforgiven, I would recommend the Recluse, being the Void SMG, which will also drop from the Onslaught activity once you've focused your Onslaught drops from Zavala. The Recluse has plenty of decent perks to roll with. Subsistence and Desperate Measures is probably arguably the best roll to go with. Again, it also has Master of Arms or Frenzy or even Destabilizing Rounds. Whatever it is, whatever SMG you want, all three of these are great options and very easily obtainable. Jumping over into some assault rifles now. Some of the meta assault rifles including the Rufus's Fury, which drops from the Root of Nightmares raid, and also the VS Pyroelectric Propellant, which drops in the Vesper's Host, the newest dungeon. Both of these auto rifles are amazing and arguably some of the best in the game, but again they come from raids and dungeons that a lot of players find hard to get. Something like the VS Pyroelectric auto rifle can roll with Attrition Orbs and Jolting Feedback, making it one of the best arc assault rifles in the game. And of course, Rufus's Fury can roll with Reconstruction and Target Lock, making it again a very solid gun. Now, my great alternatives to these two weapons would be straight away the Ross Arago, being by far one of the most easiest assault rifles in the game to get, but also arguably better than these two guns. Now again, very similar to some of the other guns, the Ross Arago is just a well drop. It comes from opening engrams, getting rank up packages. It is very easily and randomly obtained, but it can also be focus farmed through lost sectors whenever there is an auto rifle weak, which you can check through, third-party websites like Today in Destiny. Straight away, the gold roll for the Ross Arago, in my opinion, is Rewind Rounds and Onslaught, making it an amazing assault rifle to use. You can also run perks like Repulsor Brace and Attrition Orbs. Whatever the combo is, the Ross Arago has a great combination of perks, so if you ever get them to drop, just keep an eye out for any decent perks. Another very solid assault rifle that you probably already have crafted in your inventory is the Amit AR2. This one can roll with Ambitious Assassin and Incandescent, which just makes it an amazing solar assault rifle. Now, usually in this type of video, I would also recommend, a rocket launcher and also a decent heavy grenade launcher. However, with the newest news to Destiny 2, we are actually receiving the gold rolls just free of charge from the gunsmith in just a couple days, depending on when you watch this video. Now, if you don't know or if you haven't heard, basically Bungie is just giving all of its Destiny 2 player base Apology gold roll weapons that will be sold at the gunsmith on the 18th of November, depending on what time zone you're in. It's pretty much just the next reset after this week. Now, a couple of the great weapons that you should definitely make sure you go ahead and pick up is first off the VS Chill Inhibitor, which is the brand new heavy grenade launcher from the newest dungeon, Vesper's Host. They are straight away giving you the absolute best gold roll that you can get, making it the best heavy grenade launcher in the entire game. So there's no need to recommend an alternative to this gun, because you should just be able to get the best one right now. The gold roll that it's coming with is Spike Grenades, Envious Arsenal, and also Bait and Switch, making it the best heavy GL in the game. So, like I said, just pick this one up when it's available. They are also giving away a Hothead Adept version with hard launch, impact casing, tracking module, clown cartridge, and also a reload masterwork, making this an extremely decent arc rocket launcher. So if you haven't got any meta rocket launchers like the Apex Predator, I would definitely recommend trying to pick up a Hothead here, as this is a decent alternative until you can definitely get an Apex Predator. Now, slowly starting to wrap this video up here, I've got a couple pulse rifles here to recommend. One of the best pulse rifles in the game right now is the Nullify, which comes from the Salvation's Edge raid, arguably the hardest raid in the game. Another very solid pulse rifle that is, considered meta is the Darkest Before, which also comes from a dungeon, being the Prophecy. Now, some great alternatives to these guns is straight away the BXR Battler, which comes from the Dares of Eternity. This is a very solid and easily obtainable pulse rifle that can also be crafted once you've got all of your 5 red borders. The gold roll, in my opinion, is Demolitionist and Incandescent, making it extremely useful and very hard hitting. And an alternative to the Heavy Burst Nullify would be the Courageon, which came out last season, and you can go ahead and go to the Helm and buy a bunch of them now, and also eventually craft it once you've got all your patterns. The gold roll for this one would be Enlightened Action and Vault Shot, making it a very decent, hard-hitting pulse rifle. And finally, to wrap this list up here as my last recommendation, one of the best guns in the game right now is the VS Velocity Baton. Now, unfortunately, there isn't anything like this grenade launcher, as this is arguably the best grenade launcher in the game, as it is an orb printer with attrition orbs. However, if you are looking for a decent special grenade launcher to use, I would definitely recommend trying to get a Martyr's Retribution. Now, this weapon isn't craftable, however, you can focus them and buy a bunch of them from the helm with, engrams from last season. And this grenade launcher is extremely useful, with amazing perk pool like Heal Clip and Incandescent, Auto-Loading Holster and Incandescent, Envious Assassin and Incandescent, and not to mention it is also a wave frame. This grenade launcher is extremely useful, and I would definitely recommend trying to get one gold roll with this weapon if you haven't got one yet. Myself, I definitely haven't got one yet, so I'm definitely going to start spending a lot of my engrams and trying to get this one focused into my favorite gold roll. Obvious as well, if you are after another aerial denial frame like the VS Velocity Baton is, I would definitely recommend going for a Lost Signal. Now, the Lost Signal can be focus farmed, crafted, and bought from the helm from last season. I just assume everyone by now has a Lost Signal, as it is probably the best weapon to be using this season. Just like the VS Velocity Baton, the Lost Signal is an aerial denial frame. The gold roll for this one, in my opinion, is Vorpal Weapon and Auto-Loading Holster. But anyway, guys, that will wrap the video up there. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below, and all that other fun stuff. Let me know in the comment down below what your favorite alternative non-meta weapon is, and I'll give it a go. But again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.